from different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodist to the madness. Methodist to the madness. Hi,
I'm Beth.
I'm Tim.
I'm Jessica, and we're just your everyday
Methodist to the madness.
Welcome, friends of America / PUMCers. How are you guys?
Welcome.
Internet. Have you guys watched the Bo Burnham special, Inside? He has a whole song called Welcome to the Internet. And both of you said welcome. It reminded me of Bo Burnham.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really good, but also, I don't know how to put this lightly, but it does make my mental health crumble a little bit every time I watch it, but in a good way.
Oh, okay.
He recorded it. I can't talk. He recorded it during the pandemic, like when everybody was on lockdown, and it took him a year to do it. And
wow,
some of it's pretty heavy, but also hilarious.
It's called Welcome to the Internet?
Yeah. No, the whole show is called Inside.
Oh,
it's on
okay.
Netflix, and it's really good.
Awesome.
There is profanity warning in case anybody who's not Tim or Jessica wants to watch it. And Tim has profanity warning.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, good. That means viewers' discretion is advised.
Yes.
That's correct.
Whoops.
It is. Yeah.
Well, how are we doing? How's everybody's week been?
I think everybody's week, I'm going to say everybody's week went well.
Good.
Yes.
Did mine go well?
I think yours went as good as it could go.
Okay, good. Okay.
You know? I
think that's how it typically is, right?
For the
any
most
given
part.
week is as good as it could go.
Any given Sunday. Yeah.
Right.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah. Huh. I'm trying to remember what I did this past week. I finished that book I was reading.
Oh, really? What was it called again, Jessica?
It's called Queering Contemplation by Cassidy Hall.
Oh.
And it was a really good read. And Tim, if you want to borrow it, let me know. Beth, if you want to borrow it, ask Tim.
Okay. I see the order in which we're doing this. Cool.
Oh.
Tim, don't lose it. Don't lose the book before I can borrow it.
Yeah. But it's exciting because Cassidy went to the same high school as me, and she's somebody that I, kind of looked up to because she graduated 2 years before me. And it was interesting because when I moved to LA, she was living in LA in Venice with her, next door to her nephews and her brother and her sister-in-law. And she's always been one to be deep in thought or questioning things or just be in this contemplative state. And so I was really excited to hear that she wrote a book, and I'm even more excited about the journey that she's been on personally. And she goes into a deep dive about, queering, which is more so an action than it is to be, and in contemplation. And so it's a matter of she dives into a lot of different areas, but she brings in other perspectives. And by perspectives, I mean more than just one bias on a specific subject. So when it comes to the subject of race, when it comes into the conversation about heteronormative, life in general, and all of this, and it's heavy hitting conversations, but I love that she has brought in all different voices to give this a true understanding of queering contemplation. She went to all 17 monasteries in the United States.
Wow.
And, did a lot of work within the monasteries, and then Thomas Merton as well. Like there was, I think, a couple things that she mentioned there and her perspectives now on Thomas Merton. And it was, guys, it was a really heavy read, but it was a really awesome read. I'm talking about boredom and talking about attention and
wow.
And then referencing other people's perspectives in that mix. And so it was very informative, very educational. It's one of those books that you could probably read more than once all throughout your life. So
that's awesome.
What did you say it was called again?
Queering Contemplation. Yes,
that is. Get it on Audible.
She found it on Audible. Amazing.
That is how I consume my media.
Perfect.
Lots of times I do the same, Beth.
And guess what? I'm out of credit, so I'm just gonna buy it for $9.79 plus tax.
What?
Hey, yeah. Beth. So a word. What I wouldn't call it a word of wisdom. I don't know what kind of word it is, but something to keep in mind with the with Audible membership, getting those credits. It's like $12 a month or something. So if you buy an audiobook for less than $12, then you're actually doing yourself a favor by spending that credit on something more expensive.
That's true. You're right. That is a good point, because I do subscribe to Audible, and yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and
I have 3 credits, and I just like one after another, like gobble with the
like a bag of Cheetos. You were like
like a bag of Cheetos, but with books.
Yes.
Because I'm really hungry for novels.
Yes. Speaking of Audible credits, I had like 8 credits, and they had an Audible sale for 2 credits for one credit for 2 books. And I ended up spending like 7 out of my 8 credits that I had accumulated on that sale. And I don't know if I regret it, but now I'm in the same boat as you, Beth. I have like maybe 1 Audible credit in my inventory right now.
Yeah. And guess how many of those 3 books that I just added to my Audible I've listened to or even started?
All 4.
All
Oilers, it's 0.
I do the exact same thing. Oh my God.
Man. But I had some credits, and I was like, I'm going to be busy in the office a lot.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to listen to that book, because it's really good. And I'm on my way to the next book, which is How the Bible Actually Works by Peter Enns, which Tim is the author. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Sorry, we derailed you. What else is going on?
No, I think it's great. I think it's good for people to know options with books. It's exciting.
I think I'm going to start reading that book too, Jessica, How the Bible Actually Works. I regrettably did not finish The Bible Tells Me So, even though I've talked about it a lot.
So it did not tell you so.
Apparently.
The Bible tells me so if I read the book.
No, I had like 1 chapter left. I don't know why I didn't finish it. It's so great. Okay, I'll finish that one, and then I'll listen to or actually read the Bible, How the Bible Actually Works. That's very nice.
Hey, I'm going to make some chocolate chip cookies, and you make the batter, everything's ready. You turn the oven on, and then you just go to bed. Like, just finish it, man.
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. But other than that, we got an inflatable pool for the backyard that has like this inflatable couch in it, so you can sit down in the water. And I'm
in. I'll be over immediately. I'm there right now in your pool.
That is currently in my backyard pool.
Yep.
Splash. And so it's one of those things where we get very excited. At the end of my workday, I just was like, I would like to go just jump in. And so I did. And it was about 3 seconds later, I was like, I think I want to take a nap in the pool, but I don't know how. And then Beth was like, message, because she wasn't there. She wasn't out of the house yet, right? Beth texted and was like, hey, just confirming a time. And then she said, because I'm going to take a nap. And I was like, well, Beth is officially listening to my life. So
I've infiltrated your thoughts.
But we put our puppies in the pool with us for a little bit because it was cute watching them try to doggy paddle. And then we let them lounge on the little lounger to dry off. It was cute. That's awesome. That's what's been going on this past week. So what about you guys?
Love it. Tim, what's going on with you?
So had some new developments. The first is I actually started listening to Pride and Prejudice on my way home from work. And just when I'm in the car in general, if I have just enough time to actually get in a chapter. And those chapters are pretty short. And I just love that book. It's just an incredible, literary masterpiece. I mean, I just like how all the characters are so witty and there's like these really like funny things that are happening, just the way that everybody interacts. And so for anybody that hasn't read Pride and Prejudice, I would highly recommend it. Particularly, so this book is in the public domain, so you can not only access it through Gutenberg.org and actually read the text, and there's even little like cute illustrations in the text, I noticed, but you can also go on LibriVox.org. And there's this one reader that's fantastic, and she's read all sorts of books in general, especially more Jane Austen books. Her name is Elizabeth Klett. And so if you were to go on LibriVox.org and you search Pride and Prejudice, go for version 4, and then listen to the Elizabeth Klett version of Pride and Prejudice. She's a fantastic reader. I'm surprised that it's not like a commercially available kind of thing, because she does such a phenomenal job, like a very professional recording. And I guess she's doing it as charity, right? Which is really nice, because it kind of reminds me of like what we're doing here in the church, like with ministry. All that's
podcast.
Like what we're doing with this podcast. Yeah.
Podcast, we're allowing people to listen to our nonsense for free.
Yes,
that we
have so much spiritual guidance to provide
for free. You're welcome.
Free. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so yeah, like that's just been a really like big like appreciation for me in terms of like book reading, because my first inspiration to read more fiction was A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, and I'm still working on that book. But Pride and Prejudice kind of just takes everything to like a different angle, so to speak. So if you have like a polygon or something, particularly like a parallelogram or whatever, you go from like one side to like a what is it? A perpendicular side. That's what it's kind of like. It's a totally different book compared to A Winter's Promise. That's like a world building book that has a lot of immersion and so forth, like very interesting visual depictions. Whereas Pride and Prejudice is a really like witty kind of smart book, and lots of interactions occur that you got to pay like careful attention to everything that's going on, and you're rewarded. And so it's really neat. All of that being said, I only got to chapter 7, and I did not continue the book through the weekend, which I should have done. Instead, I basically did not do anything useful in my free time that I am aware of. So what that means is I spent too much time scrolling on YouTube, and like with the free time that I had, and it was sort of like an interesting breaking point for me, where I basically needed to find my way out. Like, I guess it was sort of like running out of a burning building or something like that, instead of just like figuring out like, oh, okay, I'm just going to like cut back or something like that. It was more of like, I came to a realization that I actually have to pull myself away from everything that I would normally do impulsively. And so I was talking to a friend or texting them, and I mentioned that what would really help me is if I was to like journal more or read more, or honestly, if I had no motivation to do either one of those things, then basically just sit there in silence and just think and not be so stimulated by like all the scrolling things and the internet and technology and screens and all of that stuff. And so I did that yesterday, and it really helped me kind of feel more like okay with not being constantly stimulated. I mean, granted, after a while, like sitting there doing nothing for like 30 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever, I started dozing off in my chair. So at that point, I just ended up like laying down for 20 minutes because that seemed like a good opportunity. But yeah, so now I'm kind of encouraged to stay away from like scrolling, and just if I can't make a decision to do something useful with my time, then just kind of sit there in silence and maybe pray and just kind of like try to understand how I'm feeling and thinking. And so something else that happened is I don't know why this happens to me every few weeks or so. It could be because I'm helping Beth and the church prepare for VBS, so I have a little bit extra stuff on my plate. But today I was just feeling like this like low key sadness that I couldn't really figure out, and I think like nothing has really changed in any other regard, like regarding my work or regarding like anything else in my life. But it's like suddenly I had a different perspective on it to where I couldn't really see a light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. And it was a really strange thing, but I was determined to figure it out. And something that really, really helped me so much, and so it kind of leads into our sermon feedback section, is this scripture in Matthew. It's Matthew 11:28-30. It's, "Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And that was just such a powerful scripture for me to read in that moment earlier today. Because I was just like, that's exactly how I felt. I felt weary and like I was carrying heavy burdens. And like, basically, it was kind of like trusting in Jesus again. And I felt like I did have rest, and I was able to like pull myself out of that like feeling of sadness, and was able to cultivate optimism again. And so, yeah, that's just a really, really great scripture there. So that, but besides that, I'm doing, I'm going to be doing the beginning skit with Darcy for VBS, and we're going to be preparing for that over the next 2 weeks before we have VBS. But other than that, besides not scrolling and just trying to be more meditative and reflective, that's it for my update.
Nice. I'm excited for you to read that book there, Tim, because I think that it's going to be really insightful for you when it comes to the silence, and there's a little talk about scrolling and all that kind of stuff too. So that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So fantastic. I'm excited for you to read it. But Beth,
thank you. What do you have, Beth?
So, Tim, that's one of my very favorite passages in the Bible. And I'm pretty sure I have it on a Post-it note somewhere in my house, because I just surround my life with Post-it notes that have stuff written on them. And
yeah, that's wonderful, Beth.
It's really helpful until they just become a part of the house, and then I stop looking at them.
Yeah.
You know what that is like?
Yes, 100%.
But did I tell you guys about this book that I'm reading last week? It's called Once Upon an Upset by Jessica Laurel Kane.
You might have mentioned that last week. I don't remember 100%, but you said it was a really good book, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's really
but it's heavy, but it's really powerful, right?
Right. It's changing my life. I got it for my birthday from my friend Marlene.
Wow.
And it's basically illustrated stories, insights, and reflections to help parent our children while reparenting ourselves. So, and I've found it to be really helpful. And I've been kind of dabbling in getting back to scripture journaling and doing all of that kind of stuff. I did actually get out my books last week, and I started doing a little bit of scripture journaling. And then we actually, Cynthia and I last week, I can't remember if I talked about this, but we actually met Kathy at the Starbucks that we used to do scripture journaling in before the pandemic shut everything down. And I didn't scripture journal per se while I was there, but I did get out my Jesus Calling coloring book and colored some Bible verses while I was there. I think that counts.
Yeah, I think it does.
So I've been trying to dive into this book because this book is amazing. And did I talk to you guys about the top floor and ground floor perspectives last week?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, this has different stories in it, and it's some people, like when it comes to certain situations, have top floor perspectives, and other people have ground floor perspectives, and it said, and it just says, when it's not you surviving on the ground floor, it's easy to look down and make a judgment about the bigger picture. So, anyway, I thought this was like really powerful. It says, if you're having a conflict with someone on the ground floor, you can ask yourself, am I on the top floor or am I surviving on the ground floor?
Wow.
And you can also read the person standing before you. If they're defending themselves, they're on the ground floor. And if you are in a more privileged moment and are able to access a top floor perspective, you might try offering some compassion to the defensive person by reflecting the struggle they're trying to communicate. And you can say, wow, that sounds really difficult. How can I support you? And that's
awesome.
Yeah. And I've been trying to incorporate it into my everyday life. And so I don't forget, I've started just using it on silly things, like Jonah will be like, Mom, I'm really hungry or whatever, or it's really hot in here. And I'll just say, wow, that sounds really difficult. How can I support you? So if I can remember to say it in like silly situations, I'm hoping to remember to say it in more just because it's I feel like I'm just trying to exercise that muscle to remember that those words are in my tool belt when I need to grab them.
That's awesome.
Because I often, in times of conflict, forget I have a tool belt at all. And
right.
I'd as well have just thrown it out the window or whatever. And there's another quote on the next page that says, I stopped trying to win the trophy of being right because I realized being right wasn't really what I was after. I just wanted to be heard and listened to. I just wanted my perspective to be valid too. And I realized that, like, with so many of us, not even just conflicts with like our kids or our spouse or whatever, just people that we encounter in everyday life, that's all any of us want, is to be listened to.
Yes.
And to be heard, and for our perspectives to be valid. So yeah. That's a really good book, and it's been doing a lot of good in my life. And I put down some other notes. I started listening to a new podcast.
Oh.
It's called Methodist to the Madness. I'm just kidding. It's not. Sorry. I'm not listening to our podcast. It's called Bonanas, Bonanas, for Bonanza. It is a podcast about a group of people who get together and discuss episode for episodes of Bonanza, which you can find on YouTube, full episodes of Bonanza. I've never seen the show in my life, but this podcast is started by Andy Daly. He's one of my favorite comedy actors, and he does a lot of improv. And so his podcast, he started this podcast with Matt Gorley, who helps Conan O'Brien with his podcast.
Oh, wow.
They play characters who are obsessed with Bonanza. And so Andy Daly's character is named Dalton Wilcox, and he is a cowboy poet laureate of the West. And I want to tell you the name of his book because it's so long, and I don't think it's a real book, but I'm going to read you the title. And then Matt Gorley's character plays a guy named Mutt Taylor. Okay, here it is. Here's his book, and I don't know if it's real or not. I hope it's real. It's called You Must Buy Your Wife at Least as Much Jewelry as You Buy Your Horse, and Other Poems and Observations, Humorous and Otherwise, from Life on the Range by Dalton Wilcox. I don't know if it's a real book or not. I will let you know next time. Do you guys know who Maria Bamford is?
No.
So a comedian. And anyway, her character on the show is Amy Sleeverson, and she's a very religious woman who has a religious store that's like homeschool, or not homeschool, home goods.
Mm-hmm.
But for she made a, I don't know, it's a really, really silly podcast, and it makes me laugh so hard. And it's also making me watch Bonanza, which I never thought I would, in 2024, about a show that came out in 1959. But it's so funny. If you guys, also there's language in that too, but if you guys want to laugh, I would recommend that podcast.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
And I accidentally joined Bell Choir on Wednesday last week. These are things that happen.
You
accidentally joined Bell Choir, you asked? Well, I was cleaning up my VBS crafts because I was volunteering people to do them at their tables. Thank you very much for your help. And then Jody, I think somebody was missing in Bell's, and so Jody, I think, asked me if I could read bass clef, and I was like, no. And then Don said maybe she can do C and D, and I still thought he meant bass clef, and I was like, I'll try. I'm very scared. And then when Jody was telling me the notes, she's like, that's a C, that's a D. And I was like, wait, this is treble clef though. I know that already. And so I was just playing the bells when I was supposed to. And
that's cool.
And I was like, that's bells? This is easy. Not when he watched Jody do it. She makes it look easy, but I know that it's not. So now I'm in bells. And
nice.
Wow.
And Craig's like, why are you adding more stuff? And I was like, this doesn't count, Craig, because it's on a day where I'm at church already. I don't have to show up at a different date and time to get there. I'm just already there. So
right, exactly.
Anyway, so I joined Bell's, and yesterday I watched Attack of the Killer Tomatoes with Owen and his friend and Craig. That is a crazy movie. But it
sounds interesting already.
Was so funny. Yeah, and I think that's all I have, because otherwise we'll just talk about that for the rest of the podcast.
Very likely. Very likely.
Well, that's really interesting that we're all kind of either interested in books or interested in some other entertainment that differs than several weeks ago. I think we're all kind of moving in a similar direction in that sense. That's really neat.
You know what else? Go ahead, Beth.
I was just gonna say I've listened to I've listened to 4 episodes of the podcast, and I'll listen to an episode and then I'll watch the Bonanza episode, and I actually am looking forward to watching Bonanza later so I can listen to the 5th episode. What is my life, you guys? But you know what? I'll take it. This is a sliver of something that is bringing me so much joy in a time that also brings me so much stress.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's actually wonderful, Beth. I'm going to take
Yeah.
that to heart and find things that bring me joy. That really should be my goal in my free time, if I do have free time, not just waste it, but do something that I really enjoy.
Here's the thing about free time, Tim. Sometimes when I have free time, I'm just so exhausted that all I want to do is scroll.
I know. That's what it is. You're right.
That's the thing. But I have a couple of projects that I'm working on just for me. Here I'm doing a Lego Starry Night build, as they call it. I don't know. Is that what they call it? And I'm building this mini buffalo for my mom that I bought a long time ago, or that she bought a long time ago, and I said I'd build it for her. So I'm going to try to do mindless stuff that I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Substitute scrolling for like some other like relaxing activity that doesn't require a lot of effort.
Right.
I think reading like a simple book would probably pull that off for me. That book that I mentioned in the podcast that I haven't summarized yet, or not really summarized, but gave an intro to, The Book of Three by Lloyd Alexander. That's a children's, or that's a series that's aimed for children, even though it's got like adult themes in it. Overall, it's a very simple read. So yeah, that's wonderful. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Like when we're tired and we want to scroll, then just do something else that we can put our tired energy towards. Nice.
You know what makes me feel like I'm in my maximum productivity zone? It's when I'm doing, like, when I'm listening to a podcast and then doing something else, because I like to watch TV a lot, but I feel like my attention gets taken away by the TV sometimes instead of what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I'm listening to a podcast where like it's just the words going in and it's not distracting my eyes, I can use my eyes to do the other stuff. So that's maximum productivity for me. If I can, it really, I'm sorry, as an aside, it really upsets me when I hear about like workplaces saying that they don't want people to listen to music while they're on the job because they fear it's going to limit productivity. But in fact, for a lot of people, us included, like, I feel like not allowing them to listen to music is what's limiting the productivity. Like, I agree. I'm way more productive if I can listen to something than if I can't listen to. If I have to listen to my thoughts, yuck.
Right.
There's so many.
Oh, that's like, but to come to a resting place, if you could come to a resting place in that silence though, Beth, oh boy, talk about level up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to do, Jessica. It
takes a lot of work. And I think that it also requires the support of maybe people around you sometimes when you try to do that. Because for some people, when you're in silence, it can become almost toxic in some potential way. Like it can become a toxic environment because your thoughts can overwhelm. And so I think if you're potentially surrounded by people, or like, I don't know, like with the help of a therapist or something, even, you could try to practice it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, that's a really good point, Jessica. Maybe that's what happened to me yesterday and today, now that I think about it. Maybe I dealt with some like, what was subconscious thoughts kind of like coming into my consciousness. And I just kind of hit a point of fruition today and needed to figure that out. So yeah, you know what? I think that can really provide us like a higher level of strength, but then we got to be willing to like deal with potential darkness. Kind of like some of these books that you both are reading. Yeah. Like Batman. Yeah. Indeed.
Well, speaking of Batman,
he's our guest today.
I'm here for the podcast.
I joined the Methodist Church. No.
This episode is focused on Batman is a Methodist, and Just kidding. Just kidding. But speaking of Batman, we have some church updates.
Wow.
So let's get that signal going.
That was quite the signal. And
yeah, indeed.
The church youth are going to be meeting this Saturday, July 20th at Dry Town. We're going to go to Dry Town. We're meeting at the church at 10:30 in the morning. And so for those interested, I believe the total cost is $28 a person. And unless you have a pass, then obviously that's free. Also, July 28th is the start of VBS. That's until the 31st. It's from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And if you see these little streamer type things, I think they're to imitate seaweed in some way. Just know that Amber and I both worked on those, and we had a lot of fun putting those together. Beth, we have to give those to you. But they do look like seaweed.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Can you eat?
Make anything, and it looks like something. I'm like, oh, this is so exciting.
We were like, do we dip it in the ocean and then just like have it smell like the ocean? No.
Well, I was wondering if you could eat it.
You'll be the first to try it, Tim. Yeah, you can be the first to try it.
Oh.
So other than that, those are really the start of our updates. But I do want to mention that in the bulletin, if you look at the church app, there is a section that says 2024 small group studies. And I want to give this a quick shout out because of two reasons. One, it's good to see what's available in terms of life groups, lunch church, young adult life group, and online scripture journaling. But second, this is my easy way to do my personal plug, which is for the young adult life group. Amber and I are really excited about leading a Bible study series with the young adults. So if you're between the age, what?
Can you be middle-aged and if you want to be?
You're between the age of 18 and 40, you can join.
About 41.
That's definitely possible. And we're still trying to solidify some times. Right now, everybody's availability is a little everywhere. But we're trying to put this together, and we're excited because we're going to meet with Pastor Jim to look through some books that he recommends that we go through. So it's not just going to be books that we are, our personal biases are interjected into that. We're going with the guidance of our pastor.
That is good.
I think is going to be the best. So we're really excited about that and ready to get back together with all of the young adults.
Getting the band back together.
Getting the band back together. So, but Beth, I'm excited for you to talk about your ministry moment, though. I want you to give us an update on what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if you've heard, but VBS is coming up.
Really?
And I'm not sure if you were in church this past Sunday, but Tim and I did a little publicity video for all of you. And the thing is 2 minutes long, but would you believe that it took almost 2 hours for us to do it? Because I sure would. That whole night, I was just like, Tim, I'm so sorry. I'm so tired.
Me too. See, the thing is, we were both very tired while we were doing this. So it worked out perfectly in that sense.
Yeah. While you guys were just talking about it, I yawned. That's how much that tiredness just kind of came out from all of that.
I was so tired from making that little video that I had to take a nap today because of that.
Nice.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And particularly there was a couple of things like we ended up revising props. Like not only did we not have some of the props, but we're like, you know what, this prop could be better used here. Or originally I was going to use goggles, but then I'm like, those heart glasses are way cooler and way nicer. And then we basically went through it like so many times, but I feel like that was a real way to polish it. Just keep going through it, and eventually you'll have something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we did it. Our Emmy consideration should be, I don't know, when's the Emmys? I don't watch the Emmys. Sorry, Jessica.
It's a little off season right now, but
okay. Well,
so,
I'm gonna be submitting that for the Emmy consideration. And
I would love that. Very nice. I think we have a shot.
I had Miriam in my office today making the cutest little pool noodle fish. I bought a hot knife on Amazon a couple months ago, and I think I used it for the very first time last Wednesday, and it was amazing. You just cut through those pool noodles like butter.
Whoa.
It's so cool. And then when Miriam came to my office today, I was like, we need to cut these pool noodles. And she was like, I'll do it. And I was like, no, I want to. But then I was like, no, I'll share my joy with her.
yeah.
And so I let her cut it, and she had the best time like I did. We can't believe this hasn't been in our lives this whole time. And yes, this is how excited that we get about like just basic utilities that I don't know. Anyway, 4 hours she spent making little pool noodle fish out of, slices of pool noodle. She made 75 of them, and she said it was the best day she's had in a long time.
Wow. So when is this is amazing. So when is the pool noodle business gonna how much do you guys charge? Like, what are we talking here? Like, are you guys by the hour? Do we have to book you for like an 8-hour session, or like?
Miriam loves it so much she's willing to do it for free.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime, anywhere. Yeah, so it's been fun getting ready for VBS, and I'm excited that people I get excited when people are excited to help me. So
wow.
Yeah. Oh, and we're having our last VBS meeting this coming Sunday in between services. So around 10 o'clock, we'll meet in the fireside room. And then Saturday, the 28th, is when we decorate the church. And ideally, I'd like to have it at 9, but I forgot to check with everybody to see if there's anything going on at that time. So Saturday for sure, but the time is to be determined.
Gotcha.
So, Saturday the 27th. So I'll have plenty of time to let you know what the time is.
Okay. Excellent. And in fact, you can announce it on our next podcast episode, Beth.
Definitely.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'd like some pool noodle creations.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Like, we're just going to make everything out of pool noodles.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you guys are going to have pool noodles for lunch for everybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, who needs to go to a ramen restaurant when you can have pool noodles?
Spaghetti pool noodles with beach balls.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. You know what? You could do something with marshmallows and do like a food pencil and make them look like beach balls and do some sort of dessert with it. I don't know. You could get like frozen ice cream and have it come out of like a spaghetti thing. And
oh, wow.
That would be fun.
Yeah, really maybe that could be like an Easter egg for VBS or something. It has nothing to do with Easter egg bunnies or anything like that. But yeah.
There's not going to be
awesome.
eggs in the ice cream. No.
There's no eggs in the ice cream.
Yeah. No. That's hilarious.
Unless it's Haagen-Dazs. there's
Or unless it's Horton who hatches the egg.
Yeah.
What a perfect segue.
Speaking of Batman,
Speaking of
eggs.
Batman, yesterday was Sunday the 14th, and Pastor Jim teleported from his Disney room to give us a sermon. Would it be teleported, or what would it be?
I think it would be teleported, right?
Holographic. There was a holographic visual of Pastor Jim in the sanctuary.
He was like old Ben Kenobi in hologram form.
Yes.
Did I get that name right, nerds? Sorry. I love you all.
Well, maybe he was telepreaching.
He was telepreaching.
Either way, it was definitely phoning it in.
Yeah.
Phoning it in.
Totally. So it was the second sermon of our 6-week sermon series, The Gospel According to Dr. Seuss. And we went through Horton Hatches the Egg. We focused on 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 9. And curious what you guys got from this, because I remember a lot of really awesome takeaways in terms of like one-liners. Our new hope doesn't come from us, but through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. He's the one who's faithful. Those are some things that kind of stood out. But what did you guys think? What's your feedback?
I have so for one thing, I don't know, like it's just really cool timing when this types of things happen, where like my life, like something happens in my life and then the sermon really speaks to me. And this was one of those weeks for sure. And it was just like really the most like salient understanding that I got from this was how Pastor Jim was talking about how your faith represented as gold, you'll deal with trials, and that's kind of like fire on top of the gold, like lending itself to cleanse the gold of impurities. And I just think that's a really beautiful thing in general. And I can say for sure that like any trials that I have dealt with in my life have like made me into a better person. And so it was just a really validating like understanding for me, honestly. Especially like considering how Horton would go in with like 100% faith. So like we put our faith in God 100%, and then those trials will like not break us down, but actually bring us up ultimately, because it's really just those like potential flaws in character that cause us to respond in a way that perhaps Jesus would not respond. So like we want to respond to every situation how Jesus would respond. And so like we go in to every situation with faith, and faith in God, and faith in our good character and our habits, and with wisdom, and everything will work out better, but it doesn't always. And so in those circumstances, we can reflect, we can pray to God, and we can come to a better understanding regarding how our character could have been better in that situation, so that we could have had a better outcome. And so, yeah, it's just really like powerful. And the other thing is, interestingly enough, how I had brought up that scripture in my check-in, how we want to bring our heavy burdens to Christ. I think that is really interesting, like thinking about the end of Pastor Jim's sermon, how we're not trying to have 100% faith. I mean, we'll strive to do so. We'll strive to be like Christ. But at the end of the day, we bring everything to Christ, who did have 100% faith and did have that character that reflected like perfectly God's image. And so, in that case, we can have rest. And I think that's beautiful. Something else is, I really loved how the end of the story of Horton and the egg hatching as an elephant, because that allowed me to come to kind of a creative understanding regarding like our faith in general. Like everybody's faith will be a little bit different. Everybody's understanding of their faith will be different, like our experiences in life and so forth. So it's kind of like we're all like little Hortons, like sitting on our eggs, and we'll hatch like a different like being associated with us. You could say, like, we put our faith totally into something, and then we'll have like that character, that special, like, someone that we are trying to cultivate. It could be an elephant, could be a tiger, could be a monkey, could be a sloth, you name it. Like, so I don't know, that is just kind of like a creative take on it. But ultimately, everybody's faith is a little different. That expression of that faith, and our experiences in life. So yeah.
I think that's where they get the phrase "elephant in the room." It really means faith in the room. Does anybody want to address the elephant in the room? Just prayer.
Horton?
Yeah.
Faith.
Yes.
The elephant.
Yes. Beth, what about you?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, did you have more to say?
Oh, I just wanted to say, yeah, it's not a chicken in the room or a bunny in the room or something like that, but it could be, you know, who knows? The elephant in the room, that's just the most common saying, but you could have all the other ones too.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think one of my, I love anything that has to do with hope. Like, there was a food for thought that we went to like several years ago. I think it was during Pastor Aaron's reign. It was before the pandemic. It was when both of my kids and both of Miriam's kids were still joining us for food for thought. Mm-hmm. And we got to one of the discussion questions, and the question was, what is hope? And I just kept insisting, hope is optimism, you guys. Hope is optimism. It's optimism. And somehow it became a running joke in my family. Like, sometimes Jonah will still ask me, Mom, what is hope? And I'm like, I think hope is, just believing that everything's going to turn out okay. And he'll be like, no, hope is optimism, Mom. Yeah, it is. You're right. That's right. And Horton Hatches an Egg has always been one of my favorite Dr. Seuss stories. And since I was a little kid, I've had what Horton says, like, just running in the background of my mind. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, and elephant's faithful 100%. That's just like in the background of my mind since I was a kid, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
And maybe it's made me be like Horton. It probably hasn't, but the second thing is, there's in Ted Lasso, in the first season, they have the big game, and Ted asks the newly assistant coach Nate if he thinks that they can win against, I think it's Manchester City, and he says no, it's hopeless. And Ted Lasso doesn't accept that as an answer, and even the pub, the lady who owns the pub, says, haven't you heard, Ted? It's the hope that kills you. But then he does this whole speech about how y'all have a saying over here, it's the hope that kills you. But I disagree. I think it's the lack of hope that kills you. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, because if we don't have hope, then what are we even doing here?
Right. Absolutely. Wow.
And there's a Tenacious D song. Do you guys know who Tenacious D is?
I think so.
It's a little band.
You know who it is, Tim.
Yeah, it's a little band with an obscure singer-songwriter. He goes by the name of Jack Black.
Oh, okay.
And it's a band he does with another actor, singer, songwriter named Kyle Gass. And anyway, they've been a band since before Jack Black was Jack Black. I mean, like I knew Jack Black through Tenacious D before you know,
Jack Black on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying it in that way. But this song that they came out with a few years ago, it's called Hope, and it's a silly little song, but it also makes me so happy. I'm going to read you the first verse.
Okay.
It's Hope is a doggy, a sweet doggy, standing next to a rose. A flower grows in the soil. There's still hope for life to exist, for us to survive, to thrive and survive, and find a way to live our lives and live through this nuclear holocaust. And then the last line is, let's get it on, but we can skip that part. And then it goes, I like this part too. He says, how will we survive with a little luck and patience and know-how and love? We will survive the nuclear holocaust or whatever it is that might be going on in your life. Your own personal nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
The desert that you're in.
Yes. And this song, even though it's by Tenacious D and a lot of their stuff has profanity in it, this particular song seems to have none, unless you think that dragons and gorgons are bad words.
Those are definitely on the almost list.
Yes, indeed.
So when I think of hope, I think of a doggy, a sweet doggy.
Oh, that's sweet. Very nice.
Yeah. What about you, Jessica? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
You know, I liked the part where it's mentioned that persecution was widespread and brutal, aimed at those who refused to conform to the cultic and multi-religious standards of the society in which they lived. And I don't know why, but I immediately thought of Handmaid's Tale. But and I thought about like the perspective of, you know, people just wanting to I think it was Vinson who said this, Richard Vinson from First and Second Peter, Jude, the book that was referenced in the sermon. In the world of First Peter's readers, people lost substantial inheritances because they backed the wrong politician, because their property lay in the path of an army, or because they incurred too much debt and had to sell themselves and their families into slavery. The author of Hebrews said to his readers, "You cheerfully accepted the plundering of your possessions as a result of their commitment to Christ. God's estate is not subject to these disasters. And now that God has put you, readers, into the household, your inheritance is under God's protection." Anyway, there's just a lot of thought that I kind of went down in terms of like maybe the current culture, the current climate that's happening now. And I think that when it was later mentioned that God has already taken care of the things that are truly important in life, God can use whatever struggles and trials we face to bring out some good in our lives. I mean, I'm really trusting God in this season, and I'm really praying about this, you know, upcoming season, because I do feel like there's a lot of things on the line for our personal family. And so, you know, it's a trial I think we're going to be potentially facing. And that's kind of where where my head went with everything. And so, but I think at the end of the day, you know, our new hope doesn't come from us, but through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. And so I'm going to remain hopeful that God has his hand in all things, and, you know, remain steadfast in my faith. So yeah, that's kind of what I got from it. Definitely left turn from everybody, but hey.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jessica. Yeah, it's like we have an inheritance that won't be taken away from us with God. I think that's really like validating and helpful, and kind of gives us, as Beth was saying, hope for the future. So that's great.
Yeah. But anyway, anything else? Any other thoughts you guys had, or
Nope. None.
Prayer request.
Wait.
We didn't ask Tim if he had any thoughts. Have any thoughts? No, let's go to prayer request.
No, Tim is fine. Tim's fine.
You know what? I'm fine.
Tim, what were your takeaways though? I want to hear about
it. I don't know. I think I was just going to add something, and that's, I thought it was really interesting how Horton went through like so much in that story, like not only just like watching the egg like forever, but also in the midst of like extreme weather conditions, like the winter, and then being transported to the circus, like all these different things. And that, I think that really is that like connection with the Bible scripture there about facing trials. At the end of the day, Horton still held on to his faith.
He did.
And that's like really, that's very admirable character. I think that's wonderful.
The hardest part.
Yeah.
Holding on to your faith, especially in times of adversity.
Yeah. And maybe we're referencing the circus in our lives that we're placed into, like situations where you're leading VBS and you're in this circus underwater, you know?
We can hatch our own eggs here.
Yeah.
Mine just happened to be sea turtle eggs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe that's a way to kind of look at it, is, you know, in terms of Horton and going off to the circus for a trial. What's our circus, and how can we not look at it as something that's scary and dark, but something that is, you know, new information, something to learn from, something good, you know, a new adventure is a way to kind of look at it. And how can, maybe not what is God doing to me, but more so, how can I learn in this moment? What can God teach me?
Right.
You know, what opportunity is in front of me? So
yeah. Like, hey, you know, this fire is coming from over here in left field, and it's of this temperature, but I wasn't expecting that temperature right now. But at the end of the day, the fire was just like there to like purify us. These trials are meant to purify us, purify our faith, purify our character, and give us an opportunity for growth and showing our love to like our neighbor and our love for God. So yeah, like Beth was saying though, like for whatever reason, we in the midst of those trials might forget that we have our faith. So ironically, we should be holding on to our faith just like the smith will with the gold or the silver in the fire. We should be holding on to it just like that, paying so close attention that we pull out the gold or silver at the exact right moment. But we have to like hold on to our faith that way.
That's when Jesus is carrying us.
Oh, totally. That reminds me of some, I think it was a meme that I saw on Facebook or something like that. There's like, you had one set of footsteps or something, and there was a question from someone. They're like, wait, where was I in this, or where were you in this? Oh, this was me carrying you.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular...
The footprints in the sand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Poem. Does it have an author, or is it an unknown author? I can't remember. It has an author, obviously, but...
The author is It's last name Pedia, first name Wiki.
Wait, what? Pedia Wiki?
Wikipedia.
I just think whoever wrote that poem is like, I don't know.
I'm just gonna call it Pedia Wiki from now on.
Yeah.
there's got to be a legit author. So if you guys know who the author is, please make sure that the correct credit
gets credit to where credit is due.
Maybe the author put forward this image in the public domain or something.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Very possible.
If you wrote that poem, please step forward.
Please contact us. We know you're listening.
If you wrote the poem and you attend Hondo United Methodist Church, probably.
Yeah.
Please see us.
Yeah, for sure. Unless Jesus is still carrying you in the sand, then you can leave a voicemail. That's fine.
We'll wait for him to put you down.
Yeah.
We can reach out. Thank you.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well,
any last thing?
Did we cover prayer requests?
Prayer requests.
We can jump into prayer requests.
We're so excited about prayer requests. Maybe that's me, but what's your guys' prayer requests? Tim, what's something we can be praying for you this next week?
I think I could use a prayer to not be afraid of like actually doing things that I enjoy. And I realized that I was afraid of that based on this song that I listened to the other day. It's called Take Your Time, and it's featuring Tiff Lacey, Lacey being spelled Lacey. And I unfortunately forgot the actual artist who mixed the song, but if you search those two, then you'll be able to find the song.
I found it.
Oh, you found it. Nice.
Yeah, it's Wikipedia, Wiki.
Nice. Particularly though, like just kind of getting the music feels or whatever. The Bisson vocal mix is my favorite because there's a whole bunch of remixes of the song, but the Bisson vocal mix is the best. But anyway, the message of that song really spoke to me. And she talks about not overanalyzing everything. And taking your time and relaxing and unwinding. And I think for me, I tend to overanalyze everything that I do to where I kind of just like sell myself short, so to speak, regarding enjoying different experiences in my life. So I could use a prayer for like actually not overanalyzing everything and like just enjoying things and showing love to people and showing love for God without just like having some kind of anxious mess where like I can't like, I don't know what to the point that I'm like immobilized or something. So yeah, prayer for me to kind of like break out of that and just start like enjoying my life more. And
it's some of that brain silence that Jessica was talking
about. That brain silence. Yeah. Get to that point, which
pray for brain silence, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So a prayer for brain silence. Indeed. Yes.
Wonderful.
That's excellent.
What about you?
I think just continued prayers that I can get VBS up and running, but still make time to spend time with my family. That's the biggest thing right now. And no matter what I do, like it's really dumb because when I'm doing the things with my family and spending time with them and having like I took Owen on the Warner Brothers tour with Cynthia and Emily.
Whoa, nice.
But the whole time instead, I did enjoy it. But a lot of the time I was just feeling guilty because I wasn't working on VBS stuff. And then it goes the other way too. Like when I'm in my office for a long, long time, I'm like, I should be spending this time with my family. It's all just helped me to like find that line. And I'm probably never going to find the perfect like work-life balance because I know who I am as a person, but I just need to be okay with not feeling guilty if I'm doing things I should be doing, like spending time with my family. So
yeah, I struggle with that too, honestly.
Yeah, just prayers that I can sort of, it's only like 3 more weeks of my life at this point, at least this year. So,
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely, Beth.
And prayers that we make it to August.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you have for us, Jessica?
I guess just prayers for, it's been warm.
Yeah.
And it's not as hot as it was like last week, but we had a minor scare last Wednesday because a fire started like less than 2 miles from our house.
Oh.
And they were evacuating everybody that was 101st Street up to 107th.
Oh my gosh.
We live on 92nd Street. So it was like really scary.
Literally so close to home.
Yeah. And I was in Hollywood. Amber was home. And all I could think about was Amber trying to put the goats in her Jeep. And then like, what do we do with the chickens? We have like 7,000 of them. And so a few things kind of came to mind, like, we probably need to get a trailer in case there's an emergency. And then we need to figure out placement for all of the animals. So I think just prayers that, I know there's a lot more fires that are kind of going on or simmering down, but potentially, the inevitable, it happens. It's fire season. So I guess just prayers for, keep everybody safe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But other than that, I think prayers for Amber. Her summer break is coming to a close so fast. She is back to school night on August 1st, where she meets the families, and school starts on August 5th, which means I think the week of July 29th, I want to say. Is the 29th? I don't remember. Is when she starts she goes back to work.
29th Monday.
Is it Monday?
Yeah.
So that 29th, I think, is when she starts to go back to work.
Of July?
Wait.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Because BBS is the 28th. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it's a lot. So there's a lot of things to do. But she's going to have an awesome year, and I'm excited about it. She has a new principal over at her school, and she's teaching 2-3 split this year. So
if any of you are still listening to the prayer requests, Amber does have an Amazon wish list, and you should talk to Jessica about how to that.
Yeah.
I'm planning on buying some things, but I haven't yet.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's super helpful. I love that teachers are starting to do this because it makes it really easy. I don't think people realize how much teachers pay out of pocket for a lot of stuff.
I do.
So it's, and a lot of the, depending on where, teachers are teaching, there's, different environments of students and different backgrounds of students and needs for the students. And one thing that she loves being able to do is give kids snacks, because a lot of only food that they'll sometimes get. So
I know what I'm buying then.
Yeah. And so she loves being able to provide snacks.
I also share a love of snacks.
Yeah. Snacks are just in general. You don't even have to have a wish list. Just send people snacks.
Yeah.
And they, I think that would be the greatest gift, is to be like, hey, what's
birthday?
your
What should we get her? Snacks.
Wait,
snacks.
What kind of snacks would Amber normally give her kids? Just so everybody listening would donate the proper snacks.
Granola bars. It's in the Amazon wish list. I saw that there were.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's already in there. I saw there was applesauce and stuff like that.
Yeah, things that are mostly healthy and aren't going to make the children fall asleep.
Or super hyperactive.
Get them all hopped up on goofballs or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, her reach out to me if you want to have access to her Amazon list. But yeah, she has a lot of different like Pringles, Mott's, fruit, Welch's, Goldfish. Anyway, things that are just like really easy that come in packages.
Oh, right.
Because it's easier to pass out to the kids. So anyways, plus there are these National Park Mystery Series books that are on there. And I'll be honest, I'm going to be reading these as well. Amber got one from the library and she checked one out, and they're based around true stories and they're mysteries about national parks. And it's so good. So even if you're not a little, it is a good book.
Yeah.
So
it kind of reminds me of the I Survived ones, but
yeah, she's got all those.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
When I was homeschooling Jonah, like I was just as into those books as he was. So
Yeah, I love all these.
Really
wow, I'm gonna have to check out some of these books too, because I love children's books, it seems.
Yeah. She got one of these like scanner things and then added barcode type things to her entire library in her classroom. She has over like 90 books that she has available for her kids. Because one thing is sometimes the library doesn't allow kids to check out books that are outside of their grade.
Oh, great.
So she's going to allow kids to check out books at her library.
That upsets me when they do that, because kids should be able to read books that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Yeah.
And that's why she tends to buy a lot of books for the kids, because she knows that they're going to love them.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so anyway.
I think that's huge. Like this concept of reading levels or whatever based on tests, like I don't totally agree with it, because there's lots of times where I'll like read a book and I'm like, I don't comprehend like 60% of this. Like
when Owen was in 4th grade, his reading level was like at high school, almost college. And so those were the books that his teacher wanted him to read. And I'm like, but he is in 4th grade. He wants to read the books that everybody else
reads.
Yeah, there's like that level of inspiration and creativity and magic that you want them to learn about. And like, don't send him home with an encyclopedia and have him read that.
Right.
If that's the book that they picked because they're interested in it, absolutely send them home with that encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But if they just want to see what that wimpy kid is writing in his diary, they
totally
right. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You want to see what Captain Underpants is up to?
Exactly. Yes, of course.
You need the Magic Treehouse books.
On that note, let's keep reading.
Yes. Everybody keep reading. Thank you guys for joining us today. It's been an awesome session / podcast / recording /
nonsense
/ thing that could be charged for money, but it's in the ministry instead for the church.
But we do this as a charity to you fine people.
Yes. Thank you for listening, everyone. It's an honor.
Stay Maddie Methodist.
Different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodist to the madness. Methodist to the madness.